This is ESPN, the network for thoroughbred racing.
This summer, America hosted the world's most popular team sport on grass, the World Cup of Soccer, with matches across the nation ending with the championship here in Southern California at the Rose Bowl. Not far from that famous stadium, here in Arcadia, Santa Anita's Oak Tree Meeting plays host to an equine version of the World Cup on turf. Featuring from France, Grand Flotilla, the 7-year-old roan bred in France and winner of the Grade 1 Hollywood Turf Cup. And just shipping from that country for his U.S. debut, Cafe Milano. Brazil and the Southern Hemisphere sends Sandpit, a stakes winner this summer at Del Mar. Bred in Ireland, it's Approach the Bench with 2 firsts and a second on the American turf this year. And Great Britain will be represented by the pace-setting Regency, winner in France who has made North American stops in Canada and California. Thoroughbreds from different nations, continents, and hemispheres meet today in the 26th Oak Tree Invitational. Racing to the Breeders' Cup, presented by Thrifty Car Rental. Last year, Oak Tree here at Santa Anita played host to the 10th anniversary Breeders' Cup. And today, less than 4 weeks away from racing's championship day of 1994, we'll be wrapping up one of the biggest weekends of racing leading to the Cup. And hello again, everyone. I'm Chris Lincoln. We have coast-to-coast thoroughbred racing action for you on ESPN this afternoon with major Breeders' Cup Championship implications. We'll take you back to Saturday in New York at Belmont Park to highlight some of the Breeders' Cup preview days, 6 stakes races there. We'll also have live coverage this afternoon here in California, the Oak Tree Invitational, as the best turf horses in the West prepare for the Breeders' Cup. And the 2-year-old fillies will be spotlighted as well in yesterday's Oakley Stakes here at Santa Anita. Well, we said it's an international field in this Invitational. It's certainly true. Let's meet a couple of making their Grade 1 debuts here in the States this afternoon. And we'll start with a horse from the Southern Hemisphere. Number 3, Sandpit from Brazil, a multiple Group 1 winner there, has raced first and second since coming to the States this summer. Just off the plane, this is Cafe Milano from France, one of the best 3-year-olds on the continent, they say, was second to the recent Arc de Triomphe winner, Carnegie, in a major stake there. Some great thoroughbred racing ahead. We're glad you joined us live from Southern California here on ESPN. Racing to the Breeders' Cup, the Oak Tree Invitational from Santa Anita is brought to you by Budweiser, the king of beers, who reminds you friends know when to say when. By Hollywood Park, where great times are a sure bet. Thrifty Car Rental, historically known for low rates. By Auto Tote, where the action is. And by Gainsborough Farm. Racing to the Breeders' Cup welcomes you back to Southern California. The beach umbrellas are up here in Southern California this afternoon as we welcome you back to the great race place. And since 1969, they've contested their major turf event in the fall, the Oak Tree Invitational. Let's check the conditions. It's Grade 1. The purse, $300,000. Thoroughbreds 3 and up, going 1.5 miles on the turf. $180,000 the first place check. The weather, well, I don't know what it is where you are. Maybe fall, maybe a little chill, but it feels like summer here. 90 degrees, mostly clear. Beautiful shot of the San Gabriel Mountains and a firm turf course this afternoon. Joining me now, our colleague Dave Johnson. Dave, the turf course and its condition has been much discussed by horsemen since the opening of the Oak Tree meeting.
Well, Chris, a number of horsemen have expressed concern about the turf course, which they call sandy and loose, and how that their runners are going to perform over it. So the key to getting into this winner's circle right here might be how their runners perform over the lawn this afternoon. Now, 2 of the horses in our field, Approach the Bench and Grand Flotilla, have raced very well here at Santa Anita on the turf. The other 3 horses will be making their first start on the surface.
Well, 7 were entered. 5 will go to the post. 2 scratches today. Dave Johnson, let's take a look at the field.
Okay, we start with a scratch, and that is Run Softly, but the other half of the entry, now in the Bobby Frankel barn, been racing with some very good horses in Europe. Regency starts at 12-1 with Alex Solis, the rider. Drawing the rail, but number 2 in the program is Approach the Bench, winner of the Eddie Reed earlier this year. Chris McCarron rides 3-1. Now, making his 3rd start in the United States after 2 real good races at Del Mar, Sandpit is here at Santa Anita in his first Grade 1. Corey Nakatani rides, the morning line favorite. Cafe Milano, just off the plane, just out of quarantine yesterday, has Eddie Delahousie to ride at 3-1. Grand Flotilla, who was caught in the back of the pack in a slow pace last out. Gary Stevens back from Belmont, 5-2. Navier has been scratched.
There are obviously a number of factors involved in bringing a horse from a foreign country to be successful here in the States on a different surface, different atmosphere, obviously. One of the very best at doing it, our Eclipse Award-winning trainer, Bobby Frankel. We asked him, what's the key factor?
No, it's all up to the horse. I mean, some horses adjust well. You can have a Group 1 horse come over here and end up being not a very good horse, and yet you can have a handicap horse come over here and end up being a Group 1 horse. And if they're over in Europe, the Group 1 horse would be given that one 20 pounds, and as soon as they cross the Atlantic, they seem to equal out.
You know, it's interesting. A lot of these horses in Europe get their reputation from very little information, maybe a couple of untimed workouts out on the heath. But here in the United States, they get their reputation from the racetrack.
And Grade 1 company, that's for sure. Keeping with our international flavor, the voice of Southern California racing, one of the top race callers in America, is the South African Trevor Demmin. Let's get his analysis now of the Oak Tree Invitational.
When races are run at 1.5 miles on the turf, there's usually very little form to go by, purely because these races are so rare. However, today's race is an exception. Just over a month ago, we ran the Del Mar Invitational on the turf, just 1 furlong shorter than today's race. A number of today's contenders were in that Del Mar race, including the pace setter, Regency. In the Del Mar event, he had just stepped off the plane from France. He threw in the towel early, but that was to be expected, and he'll improve this afternoon. In 4th place in the red was Navier, a long shot at Del Mar, and again today it looks like he's in over his head. However, 2 other contenders have big chances today. Approach the Bench, racing in the middle of the pack, and coming from last will be Grand Flotilla. Chris McCarron rides Approach the Bench, and he's going to have to time his ride perfectly, because if he lets him go too early, he'll be weakening late. At Del Mar, he had to wind his way through traffic and just went under a nose to the winner, Navarone. Should he be tiring late today, we know that Grand Flotilla is the kind of horse who's slow to get going. He needs to build up his momentum, but he will be rolling on the outside in the lane, and that extra furlong of today's race will certainly be in his corner. And then there's one horse who was not in the Del Mar race who might come and beat them all. He's a Brazilian bred with the unusual name of Sandpit.
And Sandpit has the least earnings of any horse in the field. And don't forget, he's trying this turf course for the very first time. He's certainly the most interesting, and he's going to get a lot of support.
Hey, well, indeed, Dave. Well, we said it's racing to the Breeders' Cup. We're going to show you the best juvenile fillies on the West Coast. When we return, we'll show you Saturday's Oak Leaf Stakes here at Santa Anita. Well, we all know there are no baseball playoffs. There is no hockey. There may be no pro basketball, but by gosh, there's horse racing, and what a great family sport. Young families having a great time here at Santa Anita on Oak Tree Invitational Day. But Saturday was a major race as well here, a Grade 1 race. It was the Oak Leaf for the 2-year-old fillies, 200,000, 1 mile and a 16th. Dave, let's meet the field of 5.
Well, earlier this year, Serena's Song was considered to be the best 2-year-old filly out here on the West Coast, but she went off at 7-2 because the winner of the Del Mar Debutante, Call Now from the powerful Ron McAnally stable, he's got a lot of good youngsters, won the Del Mar Debutante and went off the 1-2 favorite.
Trevor Denman calls Saturday's Oak Leaf Stakes at Santa Anita.
Field for the Oak Leaf Stakes sent on their way. Serena's Song bounced out the inside gate, but now Call Now is very fast, and those two go off to lead them at a quick pace. Also, Wasso is racing in 3rd, and Main Slew is 4th. Mamamuchi, as expected, dropped out last, 7 lengths off the leaders. They run to these 7/8, and Serena's Song sets a pace. It's a good one, too. Leads it by a length to Call Now. How So Wasso is right there in 3rd, and then back to Main Slew, 4th. Now 4.5 off that leader. 3 back to Mamamuchi. Past the three-quarter pole they run, and Serena's Song trying to slow them down now, leads at 3/4 of a length, but Call Now is now cutting into her lead to keep the pressure on her. And here comes Main Slew down at the rail. Main Slew going to put more pressure on Serena's Song. How So Wasso is right there fourth, and Mamamuchi's only 4 lengths off the lead. The 5 fillies are bunched. They have a half-mile to go in the Oakleaf. Serena's Song leading them by half a length. Call Now second. Main Slew didn't kick on down at the rail, has now been asked to keep up. How So Wasso is fourth, and Mamamuchi 5 off them. Past the 3/8 pole they run, and Serena's Song and Call Now. Looks like they're going to turn this into their own private little match race. Serena's Song is loping along nicely on the lead. She's kicked clear a length and a half. Alex Elise is asking Call Now to go. She's going to have to quicken though. They come for home, and Serena's Song kicks clear a length and a half. Call Now's not done. She's trying to battle back. They come to the 16th, and it's Serena's Song and Kori Nakatani finding more on the lead. Call Now can't get her, and Serena's Song, the daughter of Rahi, has gone on to make it a huge day for D. Wayne Lucas as she wins the Oakley from Call Now. Mamamuchi third.
And a couple of winning streaks yesterday. That was Kori Nakatani's 4th victory of the afternoon. And indeed, Team Lucas had a big day on both coasts, and we'll fill in the blanks from the East Coast later in our broadcast.
Here on the West Coast, Wayne's son Jeff handles the stable here. We asked him right after the Oakleaf about Serena's Song Breeders' Cup opportunities.
Well, this was an important race as a prep for the Breeders' Cup, the Breeders' Cup being her next race, and to see her run the additional distance today, going a mile and 16th, the same as we'll see at Churchill. It was very important to have a winning effort not too far from the race. So it was an important day and a good effort to set her up right.
Right after the race, Bob Lewis, by the way, our owner of the month in thoroughbred racing, greeting Kori Nakatani, and a happy winner's circle there. This Oakleaf Stakes has had quite an impact on the Breeders' Cup. As you see, 2 of the last 3 years, winners in this race. Other horses have gone on to finish first and second in 91, and again last year with Phone Chatter and Sardou. We expect the top 2 on to Louisville this year. Well, joining me now is Sherwood Chillingworth. He is the man in charge here at Oak Tree. First of all, happy anniversary.
Thank you. So our 25th anniversary, really our 26th running, but as you know, as anniversaries go, it's the 25th anniversary. And we're very proud of the fact that Oak Tree has contributed in grants to thoroughbred-related charities and institutions over $10 million in that 25 years. And we are very proud of the fact we've hosted 2 Breeders' Cups in that time, the last one of which was acknowledged to be probably the best that's been done.
Absolutely, just last year. And another kind of Breeders' Cup event coming up, Sherwood, that is your Cal Cup.
Yes, this is our 5th Cal Cup, and it's grown every year. It's probably our biggest single tennis event at Oak Tree. And it's grown to be a kind of institution in the California racing scene. People point for it. Now, as a matter of fact, we have 50 to 20% more nominations for Cal Cup races in older horses than we did last year.
Sherwood Chillingworth, our congratulations to Oak Tree on a great meeting. It's always good to be here. And we'll be back with more of the story of the Oak Tree Invitational and of a big weekend with a lot of Breeders' Cup Championship implications when we return. Welcome back to the foothills of the San Gabriel Mountain. The M standing for Monrovia, one of the towns circling the racetrack here. It's located in Arcadia. We'll be bringing you all the racehorse action you can handle this Tuesday, 3:30 Eastern Time. The Daily Racing Form Racehorse Digest, whether it's thoroughbred, quarter horse, or harness, we'll have all the action for you. Dave, what an afternoon Saturday at Belmont Park in New York. Their Breeders' Cup Preview Day, 6 stakes races. Great day of action.
And of course, the Jockey Club Gold Cup with a purse of $750,000. The last express stop on the way to the $3 million Breeders' Cup Classic. Both of those big races at 1.25 miles. And yesterday, it was an interesting and exciting finish.
Bit of a surprise. Let's pick it up, Dave.
Well, that's Colonial Affair, the eventual winner that we signaled there on the outside. Pistols and Roses, the gray, is in front. Tabasco Cat in the white blinkers on the inside, waiting for the top of the stretch. Between horses there, jockey wearing the black colors is Devil Is Due, but Colonial Affair just sweeps past everyone. And Jose Santos in the irons, his 3rd winner of the afternoon, just leaves everybody behind. Now, Devil Is Due in the black colors will get the place spot, and trying the dirt for the first time, flagged down, will finish 3rd with Tabasco Cat finishing 4th.
And Tabasco Cat with that fourth-place finish, certainly compromising, I think, his championship honors against Holy Bull. Let's look ahead now to the race that everybody was talking about yesterday, the Frizette. The 2-year-old filly Flanders, trained by Dwayne Lucas, owned by W.T. Young. She put on a performance for the ages. Tom Durkin picks up the call in the Frizette.
The field turning for home. Pat Day just sitting aboard Flanders, looking around for competition, and there is absolutely none. She is just waltzing past the 8th pole with an insurmountable lead. Look at this. She's in front by 10. She might win by 20 lengths. Wow, she wins by a pole. Flanders by 15, maybe even 20 lengths.
Wow, officially 21. Dave, who's going to run against that 2-year-old filly?
I'll tell you what, 2-year-old fillies are going to find some more in Dwayne Lucas's barn. You know, in 1988 at Churchill Downs in the Breeders' Cup, Dwayne Lucas trained horses finished first, second, and third. Right. Maybe again this year.
Well, Serena's Song, I just won the Oak Tree. If you saw, she'll be coming there to Louisville. You can bet on that. By the way, Team Lucas also won the 2-year-old colt race. That is the Champagne, the Moet Champagne Stakes. That went to Timber Country. Let's move on now. There were 2 big events on the grass. The one everybody wanted to see, Lure in the Kelso.
Yes, the Kelso was at 1 mile, and Lure, of course, getting ready for the Breeders' Cup, and it was a very interesting contest. Let's take a look. Here is Lure in the yellow colors, and the eventual winner, Nijinsky's Gold, circling horses. Now, Gito has had the early lead and set quick fractions. Dominant Prospect took the lead shortly, but then it was Lure charging up. A.N. Sociology was back in the pack by this time. Looked like Lure was going to cruise to an easy victory, but the racing really got hot in the last 16th of a mile as Nijinsky's Gold, by the way, this was Jose Santos's 3rd winner of the afternoon, came on to nip Lure just in the final strides. But don't forget, Shug McGahee, the trainer of Lure, said that what he wanted out of this was to move forward with Lure, hoping for his 3rd Breeders' Cup mile in 3 straight years. Also, don't forget that Nijinsky's Gold carried 14 pounds less than Lure in that contest yesterday.
The other grass race produced an upset, too, in the Turf Classic. Tikkanen, making his first U.S. debut, came over and won that race. Let's take a look at what the impact has been now on the Breeders' Cup Future Book. You see Serena's Song on the Oak Leaf here at 7-1. Colonial Affair, the Jockey Club winner, at 4-1. And as Jeff, we just showed you there, Nijinsky's son winning in the Kelso. Still a good price on him. One other result in the Beldame, the favorite Heavenly Prize winning. What a Breeders' Cup preview day in New York. Racing to the Breeders' Cup welcomes you back to Oak Tree at Santa Anita. That, of course, last year hosted the Breeders' Cup Championship Day. And the riders are up. You're taking a look at the 8-5 favorite now, the 3-horse Sandpit. Trained by Dick Mandella, just coming here from the Southern Hemisphere. We asked Dick the other day about some of the challenges for horses that are coming here from South America.
Whenever they come from South America or the Southern Hemisphere, there's so many changes. One is the time of day is so greatly different. The seasons are different. When it's winter here, it's summer there. The culture in which they train is so different. They gallop their horses bareback, put the saddle on to race or work, and it takes a while to change all those things around and Americanize them.
Seemed to learn his lessons well, though, and a big performance at Del Mar in this meet there.
It sure was. Surprised me at how good he ran. I sure thought he'd run good, but I think he ran 2/5 off the track record, and anytime you do that, your second start here, you're doing something. So we've got big hopes going into the weekend and anxious to see how he runs.
You know, Chris, grass racing here in the United States is so competitive, and the stretch drive so explosive. Sometimes you get an impression about a horse, and then the next time they promise more than they deliver. But the acid test is class, and that's what's going to happen today with Sandpit. He will be tested.
Horses just coming on the track now, as you see on the main track. They'll be crossing over to the turf course. And one we want to take a special look at is the 2-horse Approach the Bench, owned by John Mulhern, the colorful Irishman from County Kildare. Also did some training on this horse earlier. Then he sent him to the States to Richard Cross, and I think was a bit surprised, as were many observers, that Richard Cross started him in a claiming race here.
He ran in the Burke at the end of Oak Tree last year for John when he was training him. He left him with me. The horse trained well, got a small injury. It took a long time to get him back. He's a 6-year-old whose most recent form had been a little in and out. I, at the time, didn't think it was a big risk to run in for 125. Now everybody tells me it was an extraordinary thing to do, but at the time it seemed like the right thing.
You know, I don't think that Cross was trying to steal that race. I just think he was trying to find out how good Approach the Bench was. There's Regency.
That's the start of our post parade, Dave. That's how they do their own thing when they come over from Europe. Horse bred in Great Britain, Regency, a group winner in France last year and group place this year, making his U.S. debut when he was a bad last, 22 lengths beaten in the Del Mar Invitational. Bobby Franco couldn't figure that out. Now let's pick up the parade for you on the turf course with the 2 Approach the Bench we just talked about with his trainer Richard Cross. He won the Grade 1 80 Reed handicap, then was second by a nose the Del Mar Invitational, race from 2 to 5 in Europe. Chris McCarron is the rider, the Hall of Famer, a 3-time winner of the Oak Tree Invitational. By the way, Approach the Bench, a $13,000 Keeneland bargain. Sandpit is the 3-horse and the race favorite. Brazil's 3-year-old champion, a multiple Grade 1 winner there. Second in the United States in his debut in a minor stake at Del Mar when he won by 5 his last time. Corey Nakatani, the Del Mar riding champion, has the assignment this afternoon. The 4 horses Cafe Milano just off the plane, the only 3-year-old in the field, coming from France after being purchased by Americans Dick Duchessois and Mark Levy of Chicago. That's right, the same Dick Duchessois of Arlington International. Cafe Milano group placed in France. Pascal Berry saddled today. Eddie Delahousie, the Hall of Famer, rides. Grand Flotilla, the 5-horse, Janine Sahadi sends this one out for Mike Sloan, the 7-year-old, bred by Juddmonte Farm in Kentucky, won the Grade 1 Hollywood Turf Cup, was then also the Grade 2 Sunset, 4th in the Del Mar Invitational. Came over from France early this year. Gary Stevens won the Oak Tree in 1998. He is the jockey today. We scratched both the 1 Run Softly and the 6 Nevers. 5 going to the post, $180,000 for first place today, Dave.
You know, Chris, there are a lot of threads that lead from the Oak Tree Invitational to the Breeders' Cup Turf. And this race positioned perfectly on the calendar just 4 weeks before the big $10 million championship day this year to be held at Churchill Downs in Kentucky. But this race, the Oak Tree Invitational, has always featured quality.
The 1986 Oak Tree Invitational showcased one of the shortest priced horses in the history of the race. The coupling of Alan Paulson's front-running mare Estrapad and the talented European import Theatrical.
Homeward bound. Estrapad's going to have to reach down deep and find more. Theatrical is chasing her home on the outside, but Estrapad keeps on finding more at the rail. Theatrical not going to get to her. And what a magnificent mare this. Unbelievable. Estrapad wire to wire in the Oak Tree Invitational.
Both Estrapad and stablemate Theatrical went on to the Breeders' Cup, as did 1993 Oak Tree Invitational winner Kodashan.
They homeward bound in the Oak Tree Invitational, and Kodashan is just exuding class. This is a champion, no doubt. Kodashan putting on an exhibition for us here. Kodashan and Kent Desormeaux walking home in the Oak Tree Invitational.
And let's take a look at how the Oak Tree Invitational horses have done in the Breeders' Cup. Estrapad running 3rd, Theatrical 2nd in 86. Great Communicator took the top prize in 88. And, of course, Kodashan won the Oak Tree last year, went on to win the Breeders' Cup right here at Santa Anita and was named Horse of the Year. Warming up on the turf course now. We're moments away from the 26th running of the Oak Tree Invitational. And speaking of winners, the National Best 7 had their first single winner. 1 ticket hit the jackpot yesterday, and there you see the payoff, more than $453,000 on that single winning ticket. Play racing's National Best 7. You can be a big winner. Welcome back to Santa Anita. Today's Oak Tree Invitational is being presented by Hollywood Park, where great times are a sure bet. Looking for a sure bet here, maybe off some past performances. How about Grand Flotilla, the 4-horse, owned by Mike Sloan, trained by Janine Sahadi, was the winner of the Hollywood Turf Cup and the Sunset, but disappointed in the Del Mar Invitational. We asked Janine what happened when he ran 4th at Del Mar.
You know, horses throwing clinkers sometimes. I don't really know how to explain it other than I think the pace was a factor and the position that he was in. I do think that he's better here than he was at Del Mar. Del Mar, he's a real big horse, and Del Mar, the paddock in particular was a little bit confining, I think, for him. He was sort of getting stubborn in the paddock, not wanting to go, and put on a little bit of a show. But I think that he'll be much better off here. He trains better here.
He's got a right to be stubborn. He's the oldest horse in the race at age 7. But updating, we talked to Gary Stevens, who was in New York, finished second aboard Vaudeville yesterday. He's back here at his home track of Santa Anita, and he said that Grand Flotilla, if he can get the horse to relax down the hill in the first part of the race, he'll win it, because he says this horse has a tremendous kick. So the key for number 5, Grand Flotilla, is the early part of the race and whether he can get him to relax.
As they warm up, we're going to take a look at the auto tote odds here at Santa Anita for this 5-horse field. Here's how they're playing it at Santa Anita. Run Softly with Scratch. Regency is now at 8. Approach the bench 7-2. Sandpit still holding the favorite role is 6-5. Cafe Milano in his first U.S. effort at 5. Grand Flotilla, Janine's horse you mentioned, at 2. And we scratch Navier the 6. It's always a challenge to find a Budweiser long shot for you with a short field. Dave Johnson's up to that challenge, though. Here is the Budweiser long shot for the Oak Tree Invitational.
Budweiser long shot, number 1A Regency, is due for a huge improvement. He was 8th and last in his only United States appearance last month, where he broke on the tardy side, was rushed up to get the lead, and then gave way. Regency has now been under the excellent care of Bobby Frankel for a month, and the trainer wants to think positively about his 4-year-old.
Well, he ran some really good races last year as a 3-year-old. He was sort of the pacemaker for Commander-in-Chief. And he ran a very good race in the Irish Derby over there. He was 4th, I think. And this year his form hasn't been quite as good. He ran decent before he shipped over here before the Del Mar Invitational. But his race in the Del Mar Invitational was horrible. And really, I don't have any reason why. And he's been training well since that race, and we probably take a shot at it Sunday.
Also, this son of Dancing Brave gets the anti-bleeding medication Lasix for the 2nd time. That's a proven handicapping plus for Regency, the longest price on the board. Today's Budweiser long shot.
Dave, if he runs anything like he did running off in the post parade, I love him. Regency right now on the board at 9-1 here as the Bud long shot for the Oak Tree Invitational. Cafe Milano, the only 3-year-old in the field, also a horse of interest here and getting some support, although a lot of questions making his U.S. debut. And again, as they approach the starting gate, Dave, we need to discuss the course, a bit different configuration here, a beautiful hillside turf course.
Oh, it's a great setting. It starts up on the hill. This is at 1.5 miles on this firm turf course. Of course, it goes up even farther, 1 3/4 miles for the San Juan Capistrano, one of the other great races here. But they've got a good straight run right out of the starting gate, and then a long sweeping left-hand turn, and then they come down to the bottom of the hill from that starting gate. And well, the first thing they have to encounter there is the dirt track, so that they have to go over the dirt track to the finish line, and then it's once around. The turf course here is 7/8 in circumference.
Cafe Milano, a lot of interest in this 3-year-old Dave, the 4-horse here, just coming off the plane, literally off the plane from France, making his U.S. debut. We asked his French trainer, Pascal Barry, with the help of some subtitles, to tell us about his colt.
Yes, but he just came 3 days ago. So he went to the track this morning. Yesterday was in quarantine. He doesn't change many things. It's too quickly for him. I think after the race, maybe we need time to adapt. But for tomorrow, it should be okay.
And Pascal Barry won the Breeders' Cup Turf with Miss Alleged. Nice little thread there.
1991, he was a Breeders' Cup champion. And there is Cafe Milano, the 4-horse. We'll check the stakes and track record for you. And the standard is 2:22 4 for this 1.5 miles with Hawkster in 1989. That also, by the way, is a world mark. Dave?
I like Grand Flotilla. I think Gary Stevens will relax the horse, and he'll be big in the stretch.
They're loading up. 5 to run in the Oak Tree Invitational. The man will call it for us. Let's go to Trevor Denman.
Regency's in. They're all set. Field for the Oak Tree Invitational sent on their way. Cafe Milano was slow and lost 2 legs. As expected, Regency bounces out the gate and is sent straight to the lead. Regency leads by 2. Sandpit is racing up on the outside of approach the bench. Here's Grand Flotilla, close to the leaders today. Grand Flotilla is no more than 4 lengths off that leader. And then there's a gap of 7 back to Cafe Milano. They come into the top of the stretch first time round, and Alex Solis has a stranglehold on Regency here. He's trying to pull hard on the lead, but Alex Solis got him to slow down. The big white face of Sandpit is right there in second. On the inside of him approached the bench. The grey Grand Flotilla been kept in behind horses, but that's going to be a problem because they're just cantering out here on the lead. They're going very slow. He's a good six-back to Cafe Milano. Past the stands first time round, and Regency still tugging his way along. He leads them by just a length. Sandpit is nice and relaxed, got his long stride going right there in second. Down at the rail, approach the bench as third. And then comes Grand Flotilla. He's got no alternative but to just sit there and wait now. He's 3 lengths off them. And then there's still a gap of 6 back to the French-bred Cafe Milano. 3/4 of a mile to go in the Oak Tree Invitational, and Regency gets the rein shaken in just a little, and he goes clear by a length and a half. Sandpit is just loping along beautifully in second. In behind that comes Approach the Bench in the red colours, 3 lengths off them, and the grey Grand Flotilla has run up on the outside of him. 3.5 lengths separates these 4, and then there's a big gap of 7 back to Cafe Milano. No change in the order. They run past the half-mile pole, and Regency continues to lead, but Sandpit on a long rein, and he's just ambling along. He's breathing down that leader's neck now. Then there's 2 back to Approach the Bench, and Grand Flotilla's going to kick with his run on the outside. Cafe Milano never got involved today. 1/4 of a mile to go, and Sandpit still twitching his ears back and forth. Here comes Grand Flotilla to take him on, then Approach the Bench. Regency's gone at the top of the lane, and Sandpit kicks on for home. Tackled by the grey Grand Flotilla, but Sandpit is still full of run, still being hand-ridden out here by Corey Nakatani. Grand Flotilla's in full flight to catch him on the outside. Sandpit digs deep, he finds more, and Sandpit keeping Grand Flotilla at bay, and a superb win from Sandpit over Grand Flotilla. Third was Approach the Bench, Cafe Milano, and the pace-making Regency dropped out to last. Time in the board here, 2:25 and 1-2, and no doubt about it, this is going to be a superstar on the turf. He won very, very easily this afternoon. Chris?
Thank you, Trevor. Dick Mandella trained, Corey Nakatani rode. They're owned by Sierra Thoroughbreds. Is Sandpit, the 5-year-old chestnut from Brazil. A horse that showed so much promise at a big race in Argentina that was purchased by the Sierra Thoroughbreds, came here to the United States, was second in this U.S. debut, then won that minor stake at Del Mar by 5 lengths at his last start, got the favorite's role here, and Dave proved he was the favorite.
Oh, and the people who were touting him certainly knew what they were talking about. This horse carried 132 pounds in Brazil, proving that he had something that was worth looking at, and when Dick Mandella got him up to the barn here, he put him in a couple races, but this horse confirmed his class this afternoon and just carried the weight, went the distance, and held off the late charge of Grand Flotilla in a very impressive performance. Sandpit, Grade 1 winner.
Brazil's 3-year-old champion, winning his first Grade 1 in this country, and he may be a real factor on the grass in the future here in the States. You're taking a look at the star of Brazil, Sandpit, as he heads to the wire in America. ESPN welcomes you back. Today's coverage of the Oak Tree Invitational being presented by Hollywood Park, where great times are a sure bet. And it was a sure bet this afternoon in the Grade 1 Oak Tree Invitational. The favorite, Sandpit, goes on to win this 1.5-mile event unofficially. Sandpit, followed by Grand Flotilla, and Approach the Bench. 2:25 and 12 the running time. Trevor Denman, let's have your analysis of this race.
Well, this is going to be a horse who's going to be a real major contender. That's him in the white colors, just going to go by the leader, Regency, and he's just breezing along. Look at the left rein in Corey Nakatani's hand. See how long it is? And Nakatani's left wrist is just sitting there. He looks back, he sees Grand Flotilla come, but Nakatani knows what he's got underneath him here. And the big thing with these long-distance horses, get them to relax. Now he starts to shake the reins at him. Look at the ears. They're cocking back and forth. This guy hasn't even taken a deep breath yet. Now when Nakatani sets him free, never touches him with a whip at all, just hand rides him, and this is one of the best stayers we've seen in a long time. The second place finisher, Grand Flotilla, running his heart out, but as you can see, Sandpit still hand-ridden, and really the further they go, the more this guy's going to like it. A real top-class 1.5-mile horse on the turf.
Well, the horse that set the pace in this race was Regency from Bobby Frankel's barn. Alex Solis was the rider. Dave Johnson has him now. You take a look at Dick Mandella, the winning trainer here with Sandpit, the Brazilian. We'll get a word with Dick here in just a few moments. Corey Nakatani, the winning rider in the event. But Dave Johnson's going to catch up with our Bud Longshot rider, Alex Solis, on the pace setter Regency.
Well, Alex has been the leading rider of the last 2 meets at Hollywood Park, and he was on the Bud Longshot today. You did slow it down, though, didn't you?
Yes, this horse cooperated really good. Coming out of the gate, he came out real fast, and I got him to slow down. And going into the back stretch, I thought I had a good chance because I had to pace just like I wanted to.
But it didn't turn out that way.
No, there were some tough horses today, and maybe some other time.
Maybe some other time. Now, what about the Breeders' Cup? What are your possibilities?
Well, I had two nice 2-year-olds. I'm riding this filly call now that I think the world of.
Call now?
Yes, and I have on target finished door yesterday in the Champagne.
So we'll look for you on Call Now and on target.
I hope to God, yeah.
In the Breeders' Cup at Churchill Downs. Thanks very much, Alex Solis. Chris?
Well, Sandpit now with 15 starts in his career, and he has been in the money 12 times. He adds $180,000, his first place purse here, to his earnings of $118,713. Sandpit Racing's new star. There are his connections. Rider Corey Nakatani, trainer Dick Mandella. We'll talk to them in a moment.
Racing to the Breeders' Cup. Brought to you by Thrifty Car Rental. And we're in the winner's circle. Brittany Nakatani's here. Matthew just left. Austin's over there. They're all looking on. Oh, by the way, this is Corey Nakatani. Both Grade 1 stakes this weekend. 4 winners yesterday. And the other guy, he trains horses. Couple Breeders' Cup champions last year. Dick Mandella, who also has Sandpit now. What was the important part of the race, Corey?
Well, I think the important part of the race was just getting him to relax. And as soon as I turned him from home, I just let him kick away from him, and he did everything pretty easy.
Well, let's watch him the first time through the stands, or past the stands, and tell us about what it was like then.
Well, the first time coming around here, the main key was to get him relaxed. Alex was going right on, and we were going pretty easy, and approaching the backside about the 5/8 spot, I let him move up a little bit to put a little pressure on him because I didn't want him to go too easy.
Did you know how slow they were going up front?
You got a pretty good idea how fast we were going. I didn't realize we were going as fast as we were, but I thought that the way he was doing it well in hand, and we're just going around here galloping around, and he just gave me a real good kick turning for home. And
okay, let's watch that kick turning for home. You had disposed of Regency by this time, and now you had to hold off Grand Flotilla.
Yes, it does. I heard Trevor give him a holler at Grand Flotilla, here he comes, and my horse was just pretty much going easy on his left lead, and as soon as I got him to switch, he kicked on and pretty much win the race pretty easy.
Congratulations. I know you have to ride the next race, so we're going to let you go. Okay, Corey Nakatani, Dick Mandella. Sorry this horse isn't nominated to the Breeders' Cup, but looks like maybe you've got a few more in the barn.
Yeah, we've got a good year. A few more tests coming up, and we'll see if we can make it.
Now, how did you know and when did you know that this horse was really a Grade 1 winner?
Well, he came from Brazil, a Grade 1 winner, but comparing that to America is a hard science to figure out. He did venture over to Argentina and run 4th in the Carlos Pellegrini, which is maybe the best race in.
Carried 132 that day.
Exactly, in Argentina. Didn't run bad, was 4th. So it told you that he had some class, and then it was a matter of how much class once we got here.
And you took a long time to bring him to the track and the races here in Southern California.
Yeah, by design. The horses from the Southern Hemisphere take a long time to change over. Anyone I've ever seen rush didn't turn out to be much. Watching Henry Marino and Charlie Whittingham through the years with the great South Americans they've had, you learn your lessons doing that. And we brought him here, gave him a little rest, and brought him up slow like he'd never run before, and it turned out to be great.
What might be next for Sandpit?
We're hoping to get an invitation to the Japan Cup. I asked him before he ran his last race at Del Mar to watch it closely. The Japanese people were there looking for scouting for horses, and I told him, I said, watch when this horse runs because he's really good.
Okay.
And hopefully they're watching today.
The trainer of Kodashan, phone chatter, Dick Mandella, who has Sandpit in the winner's circle today, Chris.
With Sierra Thoroughbreds, and here's the group, and the man who heads it up, Sergio Menezes here, and he is a gentleman from Rio de Janeiro. It must feel like the weather at home in Brazil.
Yes, exactly the same. Very nice, hot and nice.
Well, Sandpit sure liked it. You're also the breeder. Tell us about the development of Sandpit.
Sandpit was bred by me in my farm in Brazil, and is by far the best horse I've bred up to now. After winning 5 Grade 1, Group 1 race in Brazil, I decided that would be the horse to bring into the United States to have my first experience here. And that was what I did, and I've been very lucky to find an excellent trainer in Richard Mandella, which bring the horse up to this race today in very good form.
Any thought of paying the big supplement to run in the Breeders' Cup?
This is something which I have to think thoroughly about. That would be fantastic to have Sandpit racing the Breeders' Cup. But the sum is something which has to be considered too. So maybe today I would say yes. Tomorrow I may be saying another thing. I don't know.
The sun is shining here in Southern California as it is in Rio de Janeiro. We appreciate them also. They're big fans of the Racehorse Digest. They watch all the time in Brazil. Now you know why these folks are winners. We'll be back with more from Santa Anita right after this. Santa Anita in the 26 Oak Tree Invitational. Sandpit the favorite, winning the race. Grand Flotilla closing in on becoming a millionaire second. Approach the bench third. The time 2:25 and 12, well off the World Stakes and course record here. Let's take a look now at the full order of finish of the 5 who ran today. And Dave, we've already heard from Sandpit. It would be quite an effort to make him eligible for the Breeders' Cup. Any behind impress you there?
Well, I would think that Grand Flotilla is certainly still a possibility. Here's a horse that always races very good. 1.5 miles seems to be his distance, and Gary Stevens maybe didn't get him to relax as early as he wanted today. But of course, that was down the hill at Churchill Downs. They won't be coming down the hill, so I would think that maybe we'll see Grand Flotilla at Churchill Downs.
And don't give up on Cafe Milano, the 3-year-old, as Pascal Barry was very concerned about the hot weather today. I think it compromised his chances. Well, coming up next for us, we're heading north to Northern California, the beautiful Napa Valley area for the final round of the senior golf event, the Transamerica Tournament, coming up here on ESPN next. Next for us, what a doubleheader weekend racing of action for you we'll have. Bob Newmeyer, Charles C. Candy be here at Santa Anita next Saturday for the Ancient Title and the Good One at 5 Eastern, 2 o'clock Pacific time. And Dave Johnson, our friend Tom Durkin, join us at Keeneland for the Spinster, live 1 week from today at 4 o'clock Eastern. Dave, what a weekend.
Two names jump out at me. Wayne Lucas and the resurgence of the Lucas stable, and Corey Nakatani stamps himself as a jockey to be reckoned with in any kind of company.
Racing to the Breeders' Cup, what a weekend. Our Racing to the Breeders' Cup coverage presented by Thrifty Car Rental. Today's coverage of the 26 Oak Tree Invitational from Santa Anita has been brought to you by Budweiser, the king of beers, who reminds you friends know when to say when. By Keeneland, source of the classic horse. Thrifty Car Rental, historically known for low rates. And by the Thoroughbred Racing Associations, assuring the highest racing standards. Ground transportation provided by Thrifty Car Rental. For reservations at over 850 locations worldwide, call Thrifty at 1-800-4CARS. This has been an ESPN Sports presentation in association with Winter Communication. Today at Santa Anita, on a day much like the owner's hometown of Rio de Janeiro in Brazil. Temperatures in the 90s, and the Brazilian-bred champion Sandpit scores a victory in America.